The Galactic Medical Research Station Epsilon 7 was the kind of place that took itself way too seriously. Floating in the middle of nowhere like a chrome-plated ego, it housed the galaxy's most prestigious xenobiological research team. And by prestigious I mean they had the biggest budget for the most ridiculous projects. Dr. Vextall strutted through the pristine corridors like he owned the place, which technically he did, being the chief researcher and all. His forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke to his nervous assistant Dr. Quilm, who scuttled along behind him like a worried crab. "Today marks a historic moment in galactic medicine," Vextall announced, his voice dripping with self-importance. "The first intact human specimen has finally arrived for our study." Dr. Quilm's tentacles twitched anxiously. "Are you certain it's actually dead, sir? The transport logs seem a bit unclear." "Of course it's dead, you fool," Vextall snapped, his scales shimmering with irritation. "Humans are notoriously fragile. Probably died from exposure to actual hygiene standards aboard our transport vessel." They paused outside the examination room, where through the transparent aluminum window they could see their prize specimen laid out on the table. Marcus Thompson, a 30-something space trucker with a beard that had seen better decades, lay sprawled across the metal surface in what the aliens assumed was the eternal repose of death. In reality he was just sleeping off the mother of all hangovers after a 3-day celebration following his biggest cargo haul ever. "Magnificent," Vextall breathed, pressing his face against the window. "Look at that primitive bone structure, those ridiculously small cranial capacity indicators, and that bizarre fur growth around the facial region." "That's called a beard, sir," Dr. Quilm offered helpfully. "I know what it's called," Vextall lied smoothly. "I was merely commenting on its rustic appearance." Marcus shifted slightly in his sleep, letting out a soft snore that made the monitoring equipment beep. Dr. Quilm jumped back like he'd been electrocuted. "Sir, did you see that? It moved. Post-mortem muscle contractions, obviously." Vextall waved dismissively. "Perfectly normal in primitive species. Their nervous systems are so basic, they probably keep twitching for hours after death." Inside the room, Marcus mumbled something that sounded suspiciously like 5 more minutes, Mom, and rolled over, nearly falling off the examination table. Dr. Quilm's eyes went wide. That seemed rather organized for a muscle contraction. "You're being ridiculous," Vextall huffed. "Dead is dead regardless of species. Now come along, we have a groundbreaking autopsy to perform. The Galactic Medical Journal will be fighting over the publishing rights." As they entered the room, Marcus let out another contented snore, completely oblivious to the fact that he was about to become the center of the galaxy's most embarrassing medical mistake. His chest rose and fell in the steady rhythm of deep sleep, while his new alien doctors prepared to make history by studying the galaxy's first living dead human. Dr. Vextall approached the examination table with the confidence of someone who had never been wrong about anything, ever. Which, to be fair, was probably true since he surrounded himself with people too terrified to correct him. "Nurse Bleak, prepare the standard autopsy equipment," he commanded, snapping his fingers with 2 of his 4 hands simultaneously. Nurse Bleak, a short, sturdy alien who looked like someone had crossed a bulldog with a filing cabinet, rolled her eyes so hard they practically fell out of her head. She'd been working at this station for 20 years and had seen enough of Vextall's groundbreaking discoveries to fill a comedy special. "Doctor," she said in her gravelly voice, "maybe we should run some basic life sign checks first. You know, just to be thorough." "Nonsense," Vextall waved her off. "Look at it. Clearly deceased. No movement, no response to stimuli." He poked Marcus in the ribs with a metal probe. Marcus's response was to swat vaguely at the probe while muttering, "Cut it out, Jerry. I'm sleeping." Dr. Quilm's tentacles practically tied themselves in knots. "Sir," it spoke, "dead things don't usually have conversations." "Residual neural activity," Vextall explained, with the patience of someone talking to a particularly slow child. "The human brain is so primitive, it probably doesn't even realize it's dead yet." Fascinating stuff, really. Nurse Bleak held up a life signs scanner that was beeping more frantically than a smoke detector in a bacon factory. "Doctor, the readings are showing active brain function, steady heartbeat, and regulated breathing patterns." "Faulty equipment," Vextall dismissed. "When did we last calibrate that thing?" "Yesterday," Bleak replied flatly. "Well, calibrate it again. Can't have substandard readings interfering with our historic research." Meanwhile, Marcus had shifted into what most people would recognize as a comfortable sleeping position, complete with one arm hanging off the table and soft snoring sounds. His body temperature was a perfectly normal 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. His pulse was steady at 72 beats per minute, and his brain was currently running a pleasant dream about successfully delivering a cargo of Rigelian spice without getting shot at by pirates. Dr. Quilm was now practically vibrating with anxiety. Sir, perhaps we should consider the possibility that the specimen might not be entirely expired. Quilm, your lack of scientific confidence is disturbing, Vextol replied, pulling on his surgical gloves with theatrical flair. This is why you'll never make chief researcher. You doubt everything, question the obvious, and fail to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture being that we're about to perform surgery on someone who's very clearly breathing. Post-mortem respiratory reflexes, Vextol said, like he was explaining gravity to a toddler. The human diaphragm continues to contract even after death. It's all very primitive and automatic. Nurse Bleak had given up trying to reason with him and was now quietly preparing a medical revival kit, just in case their corpse decided to become inconveniently alive during the procedure. She'd seen enough of Vextol's mistakes to know that having a backup plan was always wise. Now then, Vextol announced, raising his scalpel with a flourish, let's make medical history. Marcus chose that exact moment to let out a particularly loud snore, followed by a contented sigh, and the words, just 5 more minutes, boss. Dr. Quilm fainted. The scalpel was exactly 3 inches from Marcus's abdomen when the universe decided to have a sense of humor. Marcus Thompson, professional space trucker and amateur sleeper, opened his eyes, blinked twice at the bright examination lights, and let out a yawn that could have powered a small starship. Morning already? He mumbled, then sat up on the examination table like he was getting out of bed on a Tuesday. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Dr. Vextol dropped his scalpel, which clattered to the floor with a sound that seemed to echo for several geological ages. His forearms flailed in different directions, as if he was trying to flag down a taxi, perform semaphore, and surrender to enemy forces, all at the same time. Resurrection, he shrieked in a voice that would have made a banshee file a noise complaint. It's alive. The dead walks among us. Marcus scratched his beard, and looked around the room with the casual interest of someone who'd woken up in stranger places. Well, this is new. Usually when I wake up somewhere weird, there's at least an empty bottle nearby to explain it. Nurse Bleak, who had been quietly standing in the corner expecting exactly this outcome, walked over and handed Marcus a medical gown. Here you go, honey. You might want to cover up. Thanks, Marcus said, then looked down at himself and realized he was completely naked on what appeared to be an operating table. Okay, that's definitely new. I mean, I've had some wild nights, but usually I remember getting undressed. Doctor. Vextol was now pressed against the far wall, pointing at Marcus with all 4 arms like he was identifying a suspect in the galaxy's worst lineup. Impossible. You were dead. Completely dead. No vital signs. No brain activity. Brain activity might have been debatable, Marcus admitted, wrapping the gown around himself. I tied one on pretty good after that Centauri run. But dead? Nah. Just sleeping it off. Speaking of which, you wouldn't happen to have any coffee around here, would you? And maybe some aspirin. My head feels like a Martian mining drill. Dr. Quilm had regained consciousness, just in time to witness what he was certain was the first documented case of human necromancy. He scrambled to his feet, his tentacles writhing in panic. Sir, what do we do? Is it a zombie? Should we call security? I'm right here, you know, Marcus said conversationally. And I'm definitely not a zombie. Zombies don't ask for coffee. That's like rule number 1 of being undead. But you were dead, Vextol insisted, his voice cracking like a teenager asking someone to prom. We confirmed it, multiple times. The transport crew said you were deceased on arrival. Marcus thought about this for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh right, yeah, I remember now. I was sleeping in the cargo hold when your guys found me. Been pulling double shifts for 3 weeks straight, and I finally crashed hard. Really hard, apparently. Sleeping, Dr. Quilm squeaked. Yeah, you know, eyes closed, unconscious, dreaming about better-looking people. It's this thing humans do when we're tired. Usually in beds, but sometimes in cargo holds after drinking half the bar on Kepler Station. Nurse Bleak was trying very hard not to laugh as she watched 2 of the galaxy's most renowned xenobiologists grapple with the concept of sleep. Doctors, perhaps we should run those life sign calibrations I mentioned earlier. This is impossible, Vextol muttered, staring at Marcus like he was a puzzle with too many pieces. Humans don't just wake up after being dead. Well, there's your problem. Right there, Marcus said cheerfully, hopping off the examination table and stretching. I was never dead to begin with. Common mistake really, happens all the time. Dr. Vextol's brain was currently trying to process information that went against everything he thought he knew about biology, death, and the fundamental nature of existence. It was like trying to run advanced calculus on a calculator made of cheese. Happens all the time, he repeated weakly. Death happens all the time? No. Marcus clarified, searching around for his clothes. The mistaking sleeping humans for dead humans thing. You guys aren't the first aliens to make that assumption. There was this whole incident on Proxima Beta, where the local funeral director tried to embalm my buddy Jake, while he was napping off a bachelor party. Jake was not pleased. Dr. Colm was frantically taking notes, his tentacles moving so fast they looked like they were having seizures. So you're saying that humans regularly enter a state that mimics death so closely that even advanced medical equipment can't tell the difference. Advanced medical equipment. Marcus looked around the room with amusement. You guys didn't even check if I was breathing. That's like first day of medical school stuff. Well, assuming you have medical schools, you do have medical schools, right? Nurse Bleak couldn't contain herself anymore and let out a snort of laughter. Oh, they have medical schools all right. 6 years of the finest education money can buy. Apparently they don't cover the poke it and see if it moves diagnostic technique. That's not how proper xenobiology works. Vextal protested, his scales flushing a deep purple color that probably indicated embarrassment in his species. We follow strict scientific protocols. We don't just poke things. Maybe you should start, Marcus suggested helpfully. I mean, poking is pretty much the foundation of human medicine. Step 1, poke the patient. Step 2, if they say oh, they're probably alive. It's not rocket science. Dr. Colm looked up from his frantic note-taking. But the transport crew specifically stated that you showed no signs of life. They ran a full bioscan. Marcus paused in his search for pants and gave this some serious thought. Oh, yeah, I was probably in REM sleep. That's the really deep stuff. Sometimes humans sleep so hard we barely register on life scanners. Plus I'd been awake for like 72 hours straight before I crashed. When humans get that tired, we basically become temporarily dead until we recharge. Temporarily dead. Vextal's voice went up 3 octaves. That's not how death works. Death is permanent. It's the cessation of all biological functions. Not for humans. Marcus shrugged. We're pretty resilient. We bounce back from all sorts of stuff that would kill other species. Sleep deprivation, alcohol poisoning, eating gas station sushi, watching reality TV. We just power through it. Dr. Colm was now writing so furiously that smoke was coming off his pen. This is incredible. Humans can survive alcohol poisoning. And what's gas station sushi? You don't want to know, Marcus said darkly. Trust me on that one. But yeah, humans are tough. We have to be. Our planet keeps trying to kill us, so we evolved to be basically unkillable through normal means. Unkillable, Vextal squeaked. Well, not unkillable exactly, but pretty hard to put down permanently. We heal from wounds that would cripple other species. We can survive in environments that would liquefy most aliens, and we can eat food that's technically classified as toxic waste in 17 different star systems. Nurse Bleak was openly grinning now. Is this why humans are considered the galaxy's best soldiers? Partly, Marcus nodded. That and we're too stupid to know when we're beaten. Other species hear impossible odds and surrender. Humans hear impossible odds and think challenge accepted. It's a character flaw, really. Dr. Vextal was now sitting on the floor, staring at the wall with the 1,000-yard stare of someone whose entire worldview had just been demolished with a sledgehammer made of common sense. But our scans, our protocols, our entire understanding of xenobiology, probably needs some updating, Marcus agreed diplomatically. Look, I'm not trying to be mean here, but you guys maybe jumped to conclusions a little fast. I mean, you were about to perform surgery on me without even checking if I was actually dead first. That's like trying to fix a spaceship engine while it's still running. We thought you were dead, Dr. Colm protested. But you didn't verify it, Marcus pointed out. Where I come from, we have this saying measure twice, cut once. You guys went straight to the cutting part. Dr. Vextal slowly got to his feet, his dignity hanging in tatters around him like a hospital gown that had seen better days. This is the most embarrassing moment of my professional career. Look on the bright side, Marcus said, finally locating his pants behind a medical cart. At least you found out I was alive before you started the autopsy. Can you imagine how awkward that conversation would have been? Oops, sorry we accidentally vivisected you, here's your spleen back. The room fell silent, except for the sound of Marcus getting dressed and Dr. Colm's continued frantic note-taking. The weight of their near-catastrophic mistake was settling on everyone like a blanket made of pure embarrassment. So, Marcus said, breaking the silence, about that coffee. Just as Nurse Blake was about to direct Marcus to the station's cafeteria, which served coffee that could dissolve titanium hull plating, the universe decided it wasn't done having fun with the medical team yet. Dr. Vextel, who had been standing there processing the complete destruction of his professional reputation, suddenly clutched his chest with all four arms and made a sound like a deflating balloon animal. I can't. He wheezed, his scales shifting through a rainbow of colors that probably wasn't healthy in any species. My entire career, everything I've published, the journals will retract every paper I've ever written. Oh no, Dr. Quilm gasped, his tentacles going rigid with panic. He's having a professional breakdown. It's the medical equivalent of a cardiac event. Marcus, who had been in the middle of putting on his boots, looked up with the expression of someone who had just realized his day was about to get significantly more complicated. Seriously? Right now? I just wanted coffee and maybe directions to the nearest spaceport, and now I'm watching an alien doctor have what looks like a nervous breakdown because he almost accidentally performed surgery on a living person. Dr. Vextel was now hyperventilating, which in his species involved a complex breathing pattern that sounded like a broken air conditioning unit. The shame. The disgrace. How will I face the Galactic Medical Council? They'll revoke my license. I'll be working at a backwater clinic treating space flu and hangnails. Doctor, please try to calm down, Dr. Quilm pleaded, frantically searching through medical cabinets. Where do we keep the anti-anxiety medication, and which one works on our species? I can never remember if it's the blue pills or the green ones. Nurse Blake was standing by with a medical scanner, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. His stress levels are off the charts. Pulse is erratic, blood pressure is spiking, and his chromatic response is indicating severe psychological distress. Marcus watched this chaos unfold for about 30 seconds before his human instincts kicked in. It was the same instinct that made humans run toward explosions instead of away from them. The same one that made them adopt stray animals that could eat them, and the same one that made them think "hold my beer and watch this" were perfectly reasonable last words. All right. Everyone just stop, Marcus said, using the voice he usually reserved for dock workers who were about to drop expensive cargo. Dr. Quilm, put down the medication. You're just going to make things worse if you give him the wrong pills. Nurse Blake, keep monitoring his vitals, but don't panic. And Dr. Vextel, I need you to listen to me. The room went quiet except for Vextel's continued wheezing. Look, Marcus continued, walking over to the panicking doctor, I get it. You screwed up. Big time. You were about to perform an autopsy on someone who was just sleeping off a hangover. That's embarrassing. But you know what? You didn't actually do it. I'm still alive, still in one piece, and still not holding a grudge about the whole thing. But my reputation, Vextel wheezed, will survive, Marcus said firmly. You know how I know, because you're going to learn from this. You're going to implement new protocols. You're going to make sure this never happens again. And instead of being the doctor who almost dissected a living human, you're going to be the doctor who revolutionized xenobiological safety procedures. Dr. Quilm was staring at Marcus like he'd just pulled a rabbit out of a hat made of pure mathematics. That's actually quite brilliant. It's called damage control, Marcus explained. Humans are really good at it because we mess up constantly. The trick is not to let the mistake define you. Let the recovery define you instead. Vextel's breathing was starting to normalize, and his color was shifting back to something that didn't look like a disco ball having a seizure. You really think the medical council would accept that? Are you kidding? They'll probably give you an award. Think about it. Dr. Vextel's revolutionary safety protocols prevent interspecies medical disasters. That's got to be worth at least a footnote in the medical journals. Nurse Blake was now looking at Marcus with something approaching respect. You know, for someone with no medical training, you're pretty good at crisis management. I'm a space trucker. Marcus shrugged. Crisis management is basically my job description. When you're hauling volatile cargo through asteroid fields while pirates are shooting at you, you learn to think fast and stay calm under pressure. Dr. Quilm was taking notes again, but this time it was more thoughtful than frantic. Fascinating. So humans develop crisis management skills as a survival adaptation, pretty much. We have to. Our species has a talent for getting into impossible situations, and then somehow finding a way out of them. It's like our superpower, except instead of being able to fly or shoot lasers out of our eyes, we're just really good at not dying when we probably should. Vextel was now sitting up straighter, his panic attack subsiding as Marcus's words sank in. New protocols. Revolutionary safety procedures. Yes, I can see how that might work. There you go, Marcus said encouragingly. Turn your biggest mistake into your greatest achievement. It's the human way. But how do I explain nearly performing surgery on a living being? Vextel asked. Easy. You were conducting a comprehensive study of human physiology and discovered that human sleep states can mimic death so closely that even advanced medical scanners can be fooled. You then developed new protocols to prevent similar mistakes in the future. You're not the doctor who screwed up. You're the doctor who discovered a critical gap in interspecies medical knowledge and fixed it. Dr. Quilm was practically vibrating with excitement. That's brilliant. We could publish a whole series of papers on this. Identifying life signs in species with extreme sleep states. Protocols for xenobiological assessment. The importance of multi-stage verification in interspecies medicine. Now you're getting it. Marcus grinned. See. Crisis averted, careers saved, and everybody learns something new. That's what we humans call a win-win-win situation. Vextel stood up, straightening his medical coat with newfound dignity. Mr. Thompson, I owe you an enormous debt of gratitude. You've not only saved my career, but potentially advanced the field of xenobiological medicine by decades. Just promise me you'll poke the next guy before you start cutting him open, Marcus said. And seriously, where's that coffee? All this crisis management has made me thirsty. 20 minutes later, Marcus was sitting in the station's break room, nursing what could generously be called coffee, but tasted more like someone had dissolved a spaceship engine in hot water. Still, it was caffeinated, and after the morning he'd had, caffeine was all that mattered. Dr. Quilm had found Marcus's clothes, which had apparently been tagged as biological samples and nearly incinerated in the station's waste disposal system. They were wrinkled, and smelled faintly of disinfectant, but they were his. And that was good enough. So let me get this straight, Marcus said, pulling on his jacket. You guys picked me up from the cargo hold of a transport ship, assumed I was dead because I was sleeping really hard, brought me to your fancy medical station, and were about to perform an autopsy without doing any basic life sign checks first. Dr. Quilm, who was now looking considerably less nervous and more embarrassed, nodded slowly. That's an accurate summary, yes. Though when you put it like that, it sounds even worse than it felt at the time. And then when I woke up and explained that humans sometimes sleep so deeply they appear dead, your boss had a panic attack about his professional reputation, and I ended up giving medical advice to trained doctors. Also accurate, Quilm admitted. Marcus took another sip of the engine-flavored coffee, and shook his head. You know, I've had some weird experiences in my time. I've been shot at by space pirates, chased by angry customs officials, and once got trapped in a cargo hold with a crate of mating Altarian slugs. But this is definitely going in the top 5 weirdest days of my life. Nurse Bleak walked into the break room carrying a datapad and wearing an expression that suggested she was trying very hard not to laugh. Mr. Thompson, I've prepared your discharge paperwork. Technically, since you were never actually a patient, there's no medical record to speak of. But I've documented everything for our incident report. Incident report. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Oh yes, Bleak said with obvious satisfaction. This whole situation is going to require quite a bit of paperwork. Someone's going to have to explain to the station administrator why we nearly performed surgery on a living being without proper verification procedures. Should be entertaining. Dr. Vextel chose that moment to enter the break room, looking like a completely different person than the one who'd been having a nervous breakdown 30 minutes earlier. His scales had returned to their normal color. His posture was confident again, and he was carrying what appeared to be several datapads full of notes. Mr. Thompson, he said formally, I cannot adequately express my gratitude for your assistance today. Not only did you prevent what would have been a catastrophic medical error, but you've helped me realize the importance of comprehensive verification protocols in xenobiological research. You're welcome, Marcus said. Just remember the poking thing. It's really important. Already implemented, Vextel said proudly, holding up one of his datapads. I've drafted new standard operating procedures that require a minimum of 3 independent life sign verifications before any invasive procedures can be authorized. Dr. Quilm has volunteered to head up the implementation committee. Dr. Quilm beamed with pride, his tentacles practically glowing. We're calling them the Thompson Protocols, if that's acceptable to you. Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. The Thompson Protocols. You're naming medical procedures after me. It seems appropriate, Vextel said. After all, you're the one who identified the critical flaw in our methodology. Your contribution to galactic medical safety cannot be understated. My contribution was pointing out that you should check if someone's alive before trying to cut them open, Marcus said incredulously. That's not exactly revolutionary medical theory, perhaps not to humans, Quilm said thoughtfully. But to us, it represents a fundamental shift in how we approach xenobiological assessment. Different species, different assumptions, different protocols required. Nurse Bleak handed Marcus a small device that looked like a cross between a communicator and a medical scanner. Emergency medical beacon, she explained. If you ever end up unconscious around medical personnel again, this will broadcast your vital signs and a message explaining that humans can enter extremely deep sleep states, should prevent future misunderstandings. You made this just now? Marcus asked, examining the device. I had some spare time while the doctors were having their existential crisis, Bleak said with a shrug. Plus, something tells me you're the type of human who might need it again someday. Marcus couldn't argue with that logic. He clipped the device to his jacket and finished his coffee, which was somehow tasting less like engine fluid and more like actual beverage. Well, this has been educational, but I should probably get going. I've got a cargo run to Vega Station, and they're expecting me sometime this century. Of course, Vextel said, walking him toward the exit. Again, our deepest apologies for the misunderstanding, and our profound gratitude for your patience and wisdom. As they reached the docking bay where Marcus's ship was parked, looking exactly as beat up and reliable as he'd left it, he turned back to the medical team one last time. You know what the really funny part is, he said. I came here completely by accident. I was supposed to be transported to Cargo Bay 7 on Kepler Station, but somebody mixed up the manifests and I ended up on your research vessel instead. If that hadn't happened, you guys never would have learned about human sleep patterns, never would have developed new safety protocols, and probably would have made the same mistake with the next unconscious human you encountered. Dr. Quilm's tentacles twitched with what might have been amusement. So you're saying this whole incident was beneficial? I'm saying sometimes the universe has a sense of humor, Marcus replied, climbing up his ship's boarding ramp. And sometimes the best discoveries happen when everything goes completely wrong. As his ship powered up and began to pull away from the station, Marcus settled into his pilot's chair and started logging the day's events in his personal journal. Under the entry for most ridiculous thing that happened today, he wrote, nearly autopsied by alien doctors who forgot to check if I was actually dead first. Ended up giving them medical advice. Have medical procedures named after me now. Universe has weird sense of humor. He paused, then added, note to self, invest in better alarm clock. Also avoid drinking entire bars on Kepler Station, leads to complicated mornings. As the research station disappeared into the distance behind him, Marcus couldn't help but smile. Somewhere back there Dr. Vextel was probably drafting his first paper on the Thomson protocols. Dr. Quilm was setting up training sessions on proper life sign verification, and Nurse Bleak was writing the most entertaining incident report in galactic medical history. And somewhere in the galaxy, the next unconscious human who encountered alien doctors would have a much better chance of waking up with all their organs still in the right places, thanks to a hungover space trucker who just wanted 5 more minutes of sleep. Human. F***. Yeah, indeed, Marcus muttered, setting course for Vega Station and hoping his next delivery would be significantly less eventful. The universe, as usual, was taking notes.